Okay, and so after having discussed the best practices for teaching English for young learners, we are going to plunge into a unit walkthrough of our world to see how all this goes hand in hand with the layout of the book. So, first of all, I would like to tell you that the book is divided into thematic units, that is to say, units centered around a theme. And of course, it is this theme that will provide the context that we have been talking about. Language will be contextualized according to this theme. In this case, Unit 1, it's my classroom. Every unit gets started with a unit opener. And as you can very well see, the unit has a very powerful image that students will be able to talk about, that will trigger off their interest in the theme of the unit. You will see that in the unit opener, it says in this unit, I will. So students from the very beginning are presented with the 3 learning objectives of the unit. So for example, in this case, it says in this unit, I will name classroom objects, count classroom objects, name the colors of objects. So right from the beginning, both teacher and students get to know what is it that they will achieve by the end of the unit. Now, the very powerful image that you've got here in the unit opener creates interest in the topic and will create the need. What do I mean by that? Students won't be able to say much, but they will be able to say some things. That is to say, you will be able to activate their prior knowledge. So you have a chance to activate what students have already learned, maybe the colors, maybe some numbers, but then you're going to create the need. Students will actually they want to say things about a classroom and they lack the words. Now, it's an interesting suggestion that you can go back to this unit opener at certain moments of the unit, as well as at the end of the unit, to show students that every time you go back, they've got more and more to say in their target language. Now, right after the unit opener, where you have activated prior knowledge, where you have presented the topic, you have presented the learning objectives of the unit, we are going to move on to the presentation stage. So what do we do in this presentation stage? We present the new vocabulary. Now, if you pay attention, of course, one of the learning objectives of the unit was that students could name classroom objects. So here what we've got is the presentation of classroom objects, but as you can see, they are not presented in isolation, but in a context. And which is the context? The classroom. As you can say, a classroom, which is the name of the lexical group, is bigger than the lexical items. And the lexical items are presented in a chunk. A map, a clock, a pencil. Now, we have also said how important it is to work with children with a multisensory approach. So you've got all activities where students will be presented with a language where they can listen and say, listen and point, visual, auditory and kinesthetic. But one of the things that we have discussed is the importance of engaging students in interaction using the new words and chunks in communication activities. So you can see that right after the presentation of the stage, you've got the characters of the book modeling interaction, and it says work with a partner. What is it? It's a crayon. What is it? It's a map. What is it? It's a pen. The chunk, what is it? It's a... That's the structural language we've been talking about. There's no need to translate anything to students. The fact that you've got the characters asking and answering makes it clear to students as for what the function of those structures is. One of the features of the book are songs and chants, and they are really very appealing to young learners. But I just want you to focus as well on the pedagogical value of the songs presented in the book. For example, all the songs presented in the different units provide students with chunks and vocabulary they need and that are absolutely related to the learning objectives of the unit. So as you can see, you've got the song my school, and the language is this is my school, this is your school, this is my school, I like my school. Very easy songs to be easily accompanied by body movement and choreographies. But just in case you cannot figure it out, you've got the Teacher Development DVD where Dr. John Sheen will help you with the moves. Now, the fantastic thing about these songs is that they can also be used over and over again because you can replace the words. So instead of saying, this is my school, you can say, this is my pen, this is my clock, this is my map. And this repetition within the melody of a song will make it easier for students to internalize the new structures and vocabulary. You will also see that songs are accompanied with powerful visuals again. Every time students are presented with visuals, they have new opportunities to use the vocabulary and structures. In the unit opener, there was a real classroom from China. In the presentation stage, there was a classroom where there were frogs as students. And this time we have another classroom, but it's deep in the ocean. Now, in each of these instances, it is very important that the teacher pushes students to say what they can see. And students will be motivated to describe what they can see. And these are the meaningful opportunities to use and internalize the words and structures that we have been mentioning in our part 1. And then after the unit opener and after the presentation and after the interaction where students could practice the new vocabulary in an asking and answering activity, and after the song that has drilled new words and structures in a joyful way, we've got grammar. But grammar the way children can learn it. So, is it a pencil? Yes, it is. It's a pencil. Is it a crayon? No, it isn't. It's a pen. So now students are learning other structures to find out whether objects are the ones they think of or not. Now, in this listening activity where kids have to listen and circle, you've got the chance to practice these chunks and vocabulary prior to listening, while listening, and after listening. And if you pay attention, you can work on the colors, how many, school objects. So there's plenty of oral development that you can carry out with your students. So after this, there is a new presentation stage, this time extending students' vocabulary. New items are presented to students, again, point and save, and then you see the real application stage that I was mentioning too in part 1. You must have noticed that at the back of the book, students have stickers. Now, students will play in pairs and they will have stickers of different school objects, which they will have the chance to stick in the order they want without showing it to anybody. So what actually students are going to play is a guessing game. And this is an example, a very clear example of when language becomes a means to an end. Students have been learning structures like is it, yes it is, it's a, so that now they can play a guessing game. So students will have lots of fun trying to find out what objects students have stuck in positions 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And they will be using words and structures naturally. Once again, we move on to grammar, and this is where students have different structures, like what is it? It's a table. What color is it? It's yellow. How many pencils? 3. If you think about it, these are structures that are strongly related to the learning objectives of the unit presented in the unit opener. And again, a very strong application stage with an image where students can say as much as they can. How many, the color, school objects that they can see. And if you think about it, this activity can be extended by actually engaging students in displaying the things they've got in their pencil case on their desks so that they can talk about this. All these very many opportunities to use structures and vocabulary will help, according to acquisition research, students internalize the new structures and words. But another key feature of our world is that it teaches content content and language integrated. So because this thematic unit has to do with learning about school objects and being at school, students will have now a connection to social studies and history, with drawing and writing in the past and in the present. So students will be presented with the way in which people would draw and write in the past and what they do today. So in the past, people would use their hands and they would use a tablet. But now if you want to paint, you use canvas. But wait, if you want to write, you can also use a tablet. And students find this question that tablet is the same word, quite fascinating. So apart from learning vocabulary and structures, students also learn content. And then of course it says, what about you? Where do you draw? I draw. What do you draw with? So students will be also able to apply their critical thinking and say whether the crayon and the hand and the paint and the tablet and the stick are objects used in the past, in the present, or both, and of course account for what they are saying. And then of course there is another kind of activity included within each of the units, which is a communicative activity. And here, for example, taking for granted that this is used at the beginning of the school year, students will be able to go to the back of the book, cut out a name tag, write their names, walk around the classroom and interact with all their classmates, introducing themselves. And another key feature of our world is the work on values or missions in those levels for older students. So within each of the thematic units, there will be a value worked on. So since this thematic unit is about school, the value is I listen, I talk, I read, I write, I work hard in school. Something that I think really means a lot is this question of engaging students in projects. So for each of the units within the Our World series, students have the chance to work on projects. And in these projects, they will be able to put everything they've learned to the test. So for example, for this unit that we have walked through together, the project is creating a counting book. So students will be able to cut out different school objects, classroom objects. They will choose which ones they want to stick in the book. They will color them the color they like, and they will say how many of these objects they can find in the classroom. After creating their counting book, the counting book becomes the language resource. So students can engage in some sort of show and tell activity, saying how many, what color, and naming the classroom objects, which are exactly the learning objectives of the unit. And most importantly, this will also give them the chance to self-assess their performance, giving them plenty of motivation to keep on learning in future thematic units.